Welcome. I'll be talking to you about eLab. eLab is a software platform that allows to remote control a real experimental apparatus. By using eLab, any user can connect to a laboratory using a network connection like the Internet and control a real scientific experiment assembled in that lab. eLab was created and developed by Linkare. There is now a fully assembled laboratory based on this platform. It's got several active experiments, and it's located at the IST faculty in Lisbon. To start off, what I'm going to do now is download the application using the Internet. In order to use eLab, all you need to do is download it from the Internet. It's quick and extremely simple. This is not a heavy program, and it's built in Java, so it can basically run on any operative system. As soon as the download is complete, the program begins its installation automatically. When eLab's installation is finished, we can immediately see a simple welcome menu, with just a few elements, such as the insertion of a username and a password. In this case, the password is not required, for this lab is open to general public, but this is a feature that eLab allows for future laboratories. We also find a third option that allows us to select the level of the experiments. We have 3 available levels: Basic, Intermediate, and Advanced. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'll select the Basic level. By clicking on Go, eLab opens the laboratory and we can now see its general layout. I'll simply maximize the window so we can see better. On the upper left corner, we can see an on and off button. This button allows us to disconnect this laboratory and connect to a different one without having to close down eLab itself. Right above it, there's a regular toolbar with the most common working options that can usually be found in any computer program. eLab's window is made up of 3 distinct main parts. On the left side, there's a navigation menu where we can select the experiments we wish to perform and study. On the right side, we have a window where we'll be able to watch the experiment's video live. And below it, there's a chat area available, where we can talk to other users connected to this laboratory. In the central part of eLab's window, we can see the description of the selected experiments. As we select different experiments, we can immediately read its description in this area. For this demonstration, I'll select the first one in the list, the G experiment. It simply consists on throwing a ball up in the air and recording its height in real time as it falls and bounces back down. The data collected can be used, for instance, to estimate the acceleration of gravity. As we click on Enter, eLab immediately connects to the selected experiment and opens a new menu on the central area. This is a configuration menu. At the bottom there shows a message indicating what to do next, which is precisely to configure the experiment. Like I said before, the whole experimental apparatus is automated, and we'll be able to remotely control it by setting the parameters with which the experiment will run. In this case, we will set the power of the throw, the time between samples, and the total amount of samples to be collected. If we're not skillful enough to do it by dragging the cursor, we can also get the value we want by clicking on either side of the cursor, which moves it only 1 unit at a time. Or we can also type in the value directly on the box next to the slider bar. Once we've inserted these values, we may now click on the OK button to the lower left side as to indicate we're ready to execute the experiment. On the bottom, to the right, we can now see an indication of whether or not we may assume control of the apparatus. In this case, the experiment is free, which means we can take control and run it with the parameters we've introduced. If it were being used by someone else, we'd have to wait our turn. In order to run the experiment, we click on the play button on the bottom left side. By doing so, eLab configures the apparatus with our parameters and shows us what's happening as the experiment runs. eLab now changes to a different pane, the results pane, where the first window shows a representation of the ball's height in real time. On the right side, we can watch the live video of the experiment. This may have some delay depending on the internet connection being used. In this case, we can see the ball bouncing up and down. Also, by using a double click on the video's window, we can go to full screen mode. Back at the results pane, we can also take a look at a table with all the measured data, including associated experimental errors. We also have a real-time build chart of the height of the ball versus time. On the graphic, there are some very useful tools we can use to work the collected data. We may zoom in the areas that interest us most, and by rolling on a point on the graph, we can see the real values measured at that point. To work the data, there are some other useful and typical options. On the bottom of the results view, we can print, save, copy, and select all the collected data. By now, we can freely navigate all these panes: controller, results, and there's also a last pane where we can find other users that are connected to this lab at the moment. This feature, along with the chat room, can be very useful, for instance, when students are working in group at their own homes, or when teachers wish to connect online with their students outside school time. Taking another look at the left side of the screen, we can see that it now shows this last experiment. This is the experiment's history, where we can find and reopen all the results for the experiments we made so far. It's a well-known fact that any good experimental assignment requires repetition. As such, this experiment's history menu allows for an easier navigation through all the performed experiments and their results. Once again, we can find here all the same tools to work the collected data. Finally, in the same menu, if we wish to change experiments, we can disconnect this one and simply select a different one. This concludes this short presentation of eLab, which is, as we've seen, an extremely useful tool for experimental education. It's very accessible and easy to use as well. That's all for now. I hope it was interesting to you, and I hope eLab can be very helpful to you in the future. Thank you for watching.